today's introduction is about this dreams to reality theme, right? So why this theme is important? Because a lot of us plan to do really big things in our life, right? But many a times it happens due to some conditions or due to some struggles in life, we are not really able to take that next step, and because of which, we kind of do some or other kind of compromise in our life in terms of career, especially. So there may be some family responsibility, there may be some monetary issue, there may be you want to go for higher education or you want to start a small business also, right? So all these are some things that we really want to achieve in our life, and time to time that because of the external factors that is not in our hand, those dreams stay as dreams and doesn't really convert to reality, right? Now, why this session in particular is relevant for the audience? Okay, so there are different kind of people we have with us, right? Some of them are actually stuck in a respective role and they want to take a good transition into something better, right? It may be a salary hike, it may be a challenging project that you want to work on so that you can improve your skills or fine tune your skills, right? It may be something that you want to get into machine learning and you are not really sure how you want to start with, because at this point there is like plethora of information which is available online, right? So you really don't know which is the right resource that we should follow. And in case you decide you want to go for a right resource, right, I mean, you may have to go for a paid course. That is also a possibility. And as students, definitely paying for paid courses would not be that much feasible, right? So you would definitely look for free sources, but online is lot of unstructured in form of lot unstructured content you will get. So you will be really confused, what I can actually do to get me started, and it can take me to at least average or expert level. So that is something you may be confused about, right? You may also want to take a challenging project, because projects are something which gives us the on the job training, right? It actually shows us the challenges that we face in practice. That is something that may happen. You have a great idea and you are not really sure how to proceed with your idea. It may be related to machine learning, it may be related to data science itself, but again, you do some market research on the same, but again you get stuck that whether this idea can give me some revenue or not. That is also something that people struggle on. Apart from that, every application, every career transition you take, right, every job you apply, there are multiple applications that comes for that particular role. So how do you stand out in those multiple applications? That is something that is again a very common question. And most importantly, understanding the relevant skills, that would be required for your career transition. That is something which is pretty important, right? So we will be dealing with some of these problems in detail today in this session itself. So in the agenda of session which has been shared earlier, we would actually be going through the different tools and skills that would be required, the different strategies that you can actually follow, the kind of roles that is actually available in the industry that you can actually take up, all these things. Now, as you can see in the image itself, right? So whether it is a career transition you are looking for, or any kind of, any kind of goal you have, to achieve that, you have to go through these four steps. Now you have to ideate, you have to do some kind of planning, you have to do some kind of strategizing. Only after that you can get to the success level. But the first stage itself, you have to think about what you want to do. What is the goal that you are looking for? Now, it may be solving a machine learning problem itself. That is the goal. And for that, what are the tools or skills that you require to solve that problem? What kind of training infrastructure you need to have, so that that particular problem is solved in a particular deadline. That is where the strategizing will come into picture. And at the end, if you are able to put all the pieces together, then you finally achieve your goal. That is the success stage. Okay, so I hope my screen is visible. Yeah. So why is machine learning and AI is the most sought for tech domain in the world? Now there are these three solid points which is actually present. First thing itself is making impossible possible, right? within the last 5 to 10 years itself, you have seen many things that have actually been empowered by machine learning. Have you seen this plain simple application, on your chatbot itself, on your Android keyboard itself? When you type a word, the next word comes into picture, right? Nowadays, when you are typing emails, the you don't really have to type the entire thing. The phrases automatically pops up, and you just have to click on the arrow button, and that basically completes the phrase. Apart from that, whenever you are shopping, going for doing online shopping, you may see lot of personalized recommendation that comes into picture. Many applications such as this self-driving car, the animation that you can see here. Now, 50 years down the line, nobody could actually think a car can drive itself. But nowadays, with the combination of multiple sensors, with the addition of deep learning architectures, with the input that we take from cameras itself, we are able to drive a car automatically on the road. So these kind of impossible tasks which were there earlier, that has actually been possible nowadays only because of machine learning and artificial intelligence. Now, this is something that I always tell my students, what is ML and AI, right? So, you can imagine whatever humans can do, you know, uh, doing it in a much rapid manner, in a much efficient manner, is something that machine learning and AI brings into picture. Now, theoretically speaking, everything that we do can be replicated as it is, or even more intelligently by machine learning and AI system. But practically, there are a lot of challenges. For example, availability of infrastructure, availability of intelligent algorithms. So this is one of the places where the opportunity is actually present. Every day, not only companies but also researchers and many AI labs do continuous research on these kind of problems. So this is where, when I say theoretically speaking, humans, whatever humans do, can be replicated to in a even more efficient manner by machine learning. That is something which is there is still a big gap which is actually present, and this is the bridge that we are trying to fill. Who knows? Maybe 10, 20 years down the line, we may have robots that exactly speak like humans, behave like humans, and take learn like humans, take this even in a faster way. Maybe we get matured maybe after 10 years, 15 years, 20 years time. But for a robot, you can imagine they get matured automatically, right? Let's say after a certain training, maybe 1 year of time, 1 year of training, you can think of it like that, and they are able to replicate the exact tasks that we have. And this training happens only once. That means you can basically have the same kind of algorithms running behind multiple robots. Now, I mean, this may create lot of pros and cons basis. There may be situations like Terminator and all, which can come into picture. But again, that is a later. The ethics discussion is at a later topic, so we'll not be converting talking about that. Now, another important point is this particular domain is a combination of multiple technologies. When I say combination of multiple technologies, that means here there is mathematics, there is statistics, there is computer science, there is analytical skills, there is logical thinking. All of these things combined together actually is something that forms the machine learning and AI domain itself, right? So people who, let's say there is a person who has done MSc in mathematics, they can easily get a good role or a good job in the MLAI industry. I have recently actually come up with a few job posts myself, which actually requires MSc in mathematics for working on the deep learning architectures. So that was the role, and the qualification was actually MSc mathematics. Do you know why? Because there is a lot of matrix operations we need to figure out. How can we improve these metric operation which will actually take care of the training? That is something which is very important. So combination of various domains, so the kind of diversified technical exposure that you will get in this particular industry is compared to none. So that is also another reason why this is the most sought tech domain in the world. Now, in between, if you guys have any questions, you can freely put it up on the chat window. I'll be taking the questions one by one. Now let's just quickly understand these three terms, right? The data science, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. Now a lot of people are actually kind of confused about what these things are, what is the overlapping between these three things, right? So speaking from my experience, there is not really a very clear separation between these three things, data science, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. But based on the applications that we have, based on the job roles that we have in the current industry, we have done some kind of classification in the same. That is something that you can see in this image which is present, right? So you can think of data science as the superset of everything, right? So data science kind of constitutes the mathematical things, the data engineering part, the visualization part, the analytical part, the statistics, sample population, all these things is something which is encapsulated by the data science domain itself, which also includes machine learning, artificial intelligence, deep learning, reinforcement learning, all these kind of various domains or segregations that we have in the AI part of it. Okay, then artificial intelligence is something which comprises of, again, this is also a superset which consists of machine learning, deep learning, as well as classical machine learning. Okay, so basically classical machine learning and deep learning is bit different. Deep learning is something which deals primarily with neural networks, deep neural networks to be very specific. Machine learning is something which deals with some intelligent or smart algorithms that can actually replicate the behavior of any kind of traditional decision making process. For example, you may have heard about these regression models, the support vector machines, the decision forest, decision trees, random forest. All these kind of models actually fall into the classical modeling section or the predictive modeling part. Deep learning is something which is specific to the neural networks, which where we deal with neural network. That is something that when we talk about deep learning, that is there. So machine learning is something that encapsulates both the classical modeling thing as well as the deep learning thing, right? Artificial intelligence is something that encapsulate machine learning as well as all kind of sensor dynamics you have. For example, robotics, classical computer vision, sensor fusion. These are some of the technologies which is directly being used in the artificial intelligence sector. For example, when you send a Mars rover, right? So when you create a Mars rover itself, the Mars rover has there are multiple levels of logic and multiple layers of logic which is actually present. All those things that is there, starting from sensing till the processing part and taking the actions, is something which is taken care by artificial intelligence. Okay, now data science is at the core, it is at the top, and there are all these segregations. Data science includes data analytics, mathematics, statistics, along with that the artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning, all of them, right? So hope that is clear. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Now, let's say you want to build your career in machine learning. So today we have multiple level of participants. Some of them are freshers, some of them are already experienced people who are in the industry. Let's say you want to take a switch into machine learning domain or data science domain itself. So how do you want to get started? That is something we will try to understand in this particular slide. So first thing is you understand the prerequisite. As I said earlier, these are some of this is a domain which is a combination of multiple things: mathematics, computer science, as well as statistics. Right? When I say mathematics, that means linear algebra, matrix operations, all these things will come into play. When I say computer science, that means you need to have some kind of programming skill with you. Primarily, preferred is Python, but if you are familiar with any kind of programming language, it is not really a difficult task to learn any of these languages which are related to ML, AI, or data science. Finally, statistics. What is data? What is the distribution of data? What is a population? What is a sample? How do you represent a sample? All these things are actually part of statistics. Why statistics is important? Understanding the data is actually the first thing that we do in any kind of machine learning and AI application, because that is the thing on which our machine is going to learn things. So if there is any kind of bias present in the data, your model is also going to get biased. So understanding the data is very important. So there are specifically people who are MSc in statistics also, who actually work in this domain. in many research labs. You might have heard about these research labs called Google AI, Open AI. So these are actually the research labs, open source research labs set by these big companies, where people can come and work. Then we have the third step we can do is you have to choose a programming language, right? So nowadays there are actually many automation tools that have actually come into play. For example, AutoML is one created by Google. Azure is one. Azure ML is one by Microsoft. So basically, these automation tools automates the entire machine learning problem process itself, starting from data processing, data crunching, till deployment of the model. Also, that is something that are taken care by these platforms. But definitely, the first priority is, since everybody here is starting with machine learning and AI, you should understand each and every step in detail, right? So for that, having a knowledge of a programming language, Python or R, is definitely a mandatory thing. So R is for people who are more into data analytics, more into data science, data visualization, or exploratory data analysis, business analytics, business consultancy. So those people actually work with R. Python is more, I can say Python is something that you can actually use when you are going for core deep learning applications. Python, whatever work you do in R can actually be replicated by Python as well. So that is also something you can choose. So based on your expertise, based on your job role, you can actually select which programming language you want to start with. Then fourth thing is business knowledge or domain knowledge. Let's say you are working in finance industry. So the data of finance industry is definitely going to be different from for the data in the media industry. In media, where you are actually analyzing how many views you get for a particular video or a particular series that you get, whereas finance, you are actually analyzing the credit history of a person, right? So understanding the domain knowledge means understanding more about the data that you are going to work on. So gathering up the business knowledge or the domain knowledge is also one of the very important things. So for starters, you don't really have to think about business knowledge or domain knowledge at first right away. First thing is you start working. You understand what machine learning is. Understand the prerequisites. Slowly, once you start working on a few projects, you will get what domain you want to work on. Whether you want to get into the finance domain or e-commerce domain or retail domain or media marketing domain, that is something which will be decided along with your experience only. Then you should start modeling business problems to mathematical problems. There are a lot of open source problems you will actually get online. What you can do is you can actually pick some of these problems one by one, and then you can start working on it. For example, let's say you want to analyze some sales data. So your goal is to predict the sales of next month based on the pattern that you have seen for the last 1 year or last 2 years, 3 years, right? So this is the business problem. This is something you will get from your CEO or CTO. Understanding what kind of data is required for this problem, that means what is the data sourcing, till what kind of analysis we need to do on this data, then what kind of modeling we need to do, which is the right algorithm to choose, and once that is done, how do you want to deploy, how do you want to measure the efficiency of the model, and then how do you want to deploy it. The entire process will be taken care only if you start with a business problem. You can definitely be skilled in any of the particular part. You may be very skilled in let's say the analytics part of it or the EDA part of it, or you may be very skilled in a modeling part of it. But for starter, once you have an end-to-end understanding of the entire business process, that will actually create your interest in a particular segment of it, and then you can fine tune your skills in that particular part. You can start working on hands-on. That means you can either install, let's say, Jupyter Notebook on your local system, or you can use open source tools like Colab or Kaggle, to write some code, build some model, and everything. Then one of the most important thing is build networking and make teams, right? So every machine learning challenge that you will actually see, let's say on Kaggle, you can actually do it in a team. Okay, you can discuss among yourselves, among your peers, among your colleagues, and you can find people who are interested in the same domain. You can form a team, take care of a business problem. That will not only make your work easier, but also it will reduce the time that you would have spent alone, to take care of this business problem. The more perspectives you have on a problem, the better it is. And building strong networking is very important because you will also get a referrals for different companies. Then one of the important points is also do storytelling with insights and data visualization. So let's say you are explaining whatever solution you have built to your higher management, right? So they are people who are not so technical. You are the technical person in the team, right? So what you have to do is they are not going to understand these different jargons that you will throw at them. They will not understand what a max pooling layer is. They will not understand what is convolution at all, right? So what you have to do is you have to portray whatever solution you have built in a story manner. That is where you have to use different kind of visualization, different kind of examples of business problem, or how your solution is impacting the business, how it is generating more sales or generating more revenue. That is something you have to do through storytelling. Now don't worry, these are some things that you can practice one by one. There are a lot of YouTube tutorials also you will find online which will actually help you practice these things. Then finally, you have to showcase the projects that you have built. For getting a uh, good transition, you definitely have to, whatever projects you have done, whether academic project or whether it's a on the job project, you have to showcase it to your potential recruiters. For that, what you can do is there are three possible things that you can do. First thing is you can put on your resume that everybody is going to do. So is that going to differentiate you, or is that going to help you stand out from others? Not really. Second thing is you can put a GitHub repo, then you can share the link of the repo so that yes, they have some proof that you have done this project. If it is a company project, that may not be possible, but if it is an academic project or a personal project, it is definitely doable. That is a better approach along with the resume part. But I believe the best thing is create a hosted project. Nowadays, hosting a particular model is not really that big of a deal. There are a lot of libraries which is available. You can quickly deploy a model, use some REST API based solutions on your local host itself. If you have a dedicated server, you have purchased some kind of server, you can host your projects over there also, where they will actually be seeing the live implementation of whatever model you have trained or built, or whatever business problem you have dealt with. Create an online portfolio, put your results over there for every project that you have done. So these are some of the things that you can actually do to showcase your skills to a lot of people. And the more you do this, or the more thoroughly you will do this, the recruiters are going to find your profile more and more interesting, thereby shortlisting you for the further rounds, or for eventually selecting you for a particular role. Apart from that, there are some more strategies which are present to be followed. Just a second. Yes. So there are a lot of free courses which is also available. There are forums where a lot of people like me, Srijan and Akars, write blogs, write articles, which you can read. We write about latest technologies, the latest trends that have been followed in the industry. You can participate in hackathons. Participating in a hackathon may not mean you are looking for a prize. You may participate just for the sake of learning itself, and that is the best starter you can have. And participate in community activities. Nowadays, definitely virtual community activities. Participate in small webinar. Try to communicate with people who are your fellow participants, along with the presenters who are there. So these are some of the techniques that you can use to build a strong networking. Then slowly and steadily you can gain knowledge of the industry that you want to work in. Let's say you started your career in an e-commerce industry, right? So your primary domain started as a e-commerce only. In e-commerce also there are multiple segments. You may be part of an agricultural e-commerce, you may be part of an fashion based e-commerce or electronics e-commerce. There are many small segments which are also present. Whatever industry you join, start gaining knowledge or the domain knowledge about that particular industry. You may join the edtech sector also. That is also kind of an e-commerce nowadays. Second thing is you can also be part of internships, do some kind of part-time work. That is also one possibility. Now, definitely it is difficult for big companies, as a fresher, Amazon may not directly hire you as a machine learning engineer or data science associate. And you need to actually create that kind of experience within yourself or in your profile. Only then they are going to hire you for the respective jobs. So for that, you can think of internships as more or less a learning time, right? You can do part-time work. Maybe the payment might be less, but if your learning is something that you are getting, definitely you should go for it. That will add a lot of weight on your resume right away. Then definitely apply for jobs, more and more jobs, and go for many interviews as possible. Going through multiple interviews definitely will fine tune your communication skills, making you a better presenter, making you a better storyteller, how to communicate your ideas in a much more efficient manner or a clear manner. That is something you will gain out of going through multiple mock interviews. Being this is a kind of technology which is being updated every day, right? So every week or every month there are new things that is coming into picture. So reading latest research papers, blogs and articles definitely helps to keep you updated. Most importantly, you should stay hungry and stay curious. The moment you lose that hunger, no, that is the moment the growth will actually stop. Until and unless there is a spark within yourself that you want to learn, you want to achieve something, all things is going to go as per the standard way. So always stay hungry and stay curious. Now, quickly discussing about the different kind of roles in the industry that we have. Primarily, there are three segments of roles which is actually present. One segment deals with data primarily. The second segment deals with machine learning and AI primarily, and the third segment is more of a senior role or consultant roles or manager kind of roles, right? So as you can see in the data domain, the primary skills that you should look into is analytical skills, logical skills, logical thinking, data visualization kind of skills. That is something that you can look for. Writing SQL queries is also very important. Being a data engineer or data analyst, that is something you can do. Learning different tools like Power BI is definitely comes into picture. That is something that will add an advantage to your resume. There are a lot of tutorials which is actually available that you can look into. Data scientist is something which is actually a combination of machine learning as well as the database role, right? So you need to have, you can think of, during the start of your career, you can think of yourself, or you can start with, let's say, data analytics role. Slowly and slowly you can move to a data scientist role where you deal with more and more machine learning based problems, right? And then slowly in your career you will move into a machine learning engineer role where you deal with the core machine learning problems. Coming to the machine learning roles, there are many things. This is actually a very rare role. Lot of companies are even not really sure. I mean, this is something which is pretty standard that I have put. Depending, the designation is something which is kind of I have found which is kind of confusing in a lot of companies. You may have given a data scientist designation, but you may be working as a pure machine learning engineer, only modeling part. Sometimes in some data scientist role, you will only be working on data analyst profiles only. So a lot of this kind of confusion is also present in the industry. But this is this segregation that I have done. It is purely based on the kind of work that you have. Okay, you can be a researcher. When you say machine learning researcher, you basically deal with a particular algorithm or a set of algorithms, and you try to fine tune those algorithms to a better extent. Coming up with different kind of architectures, algorithms is something which is your primary work. Machine learning engineer role is something where you have a problem statement, right? For that particular problem statement, what kind of architecture works the best? That is something you would have to look for. There is a new kind of role that has come into picture recently, which is the ML ops engineer. There is something called DevOps, if you guys are familiar about that. ML ops is something that is handling the entire end-to-end pipeline of the machine learning workflow that you are going to build. That is something which have come up recently. Finally, for more senior people in the industry, the lead data scientist role, analytics manager role, the domain expert plus consultant roles are actually something which is available. So when you are, let's say, 5 years into the industry, you definitely start gathering up your domain knowledge. That is which industry you have been working on. So you can either lead a team of few people in the same problem or a similar problem, or you can be someone who have an understanding of business as well as technology. That is the consultancy role, and that only comes at a senior level. The more you work, the more problems you deal with during your initial days of your career, the better it is going to be when you will become a domain expert, analytics manager, or consultant. There are also AI, ML leads, architects, managers who are also present. Let's say somebody is 15 years into the experience and they have taken up a really challenging task in some kind of business problem they have taken up, which requires machine learning to be used to the core. Right? So for them also, understanding the jargons, understanding how this entire thing functions, understanding how the entire pipeline works, that is something which is very important, because they are going to be someone who is going to lead a set of people to build such a solution. Okay, so these are the primary roles which is present. Let's move on to the next slide. Okay, now let's discuss which stage are you in. So as we see, there are a lot of diversified set of audience who have applied for this particular session. Slowly, we will actually be segregating these sessions to a specific roles, especially let's say for freshers and for people who are, let's say, 10 years into the industry. But for now, this is kind of a quick summary of whatever the different kind of people who are actually interested or can work in analytics problem or machine learning problems or can take a switch into AI. Now, one of the reasons behind doing this segregation is this: each and every point that you see here will actually require a different set of strategies or different set of preparation if you want to get into this domain. If you want to get a career transition to machine learning, getting a very good hike in your salary, you may be falling into one of these buckets which is present on your screen. Each and every bucket has a different kind of strategy that you have to follow. So going through each of them won't be possible because of time constraints, so I'll be quickly talking about a few of them. Let's say you are a fresher, right? So as a fresher, for you, domain knowledge might not be absolutely important. For you, the core knowledge, or let's say analytics knowledge, is something which is important. You have to understand what machine learning is. You should deal with set of problems. You might have completed a few set of projects. Doing one or two projects might not actually give you a lot, because there are going to be many people who have done the same project. You might have worked on a few data set, which is pretty standard whenever people start. So what you can do is you can actually take up a difficult problem. It may be difficult to understand and do it. It may not take 1 week, it may not take 2 weeks, it may take 1 month or a few months also to deal with. But that is something, after 2, 3 months, once you complete the project, you would find yourself in a completely different level. That is something that can actually happen when you are in a fresher. And one more thing about freshers is they are flexible to technology as well as the domain itself. As a fresher, you can have understanding about, let's say, full stack development along with machine learning. So both of them together give you an added advantage or an added edge in your resume. That is also a possibility. Apart from that, what you can do is you can stick with a domain. You can either choose natural language processing or computer vision as one of your domains. You can work on a particular set of problems. You can work on, let's say, reinforcement learning also. You can work on robotics. Any of these things is fine. You can start working on a particular problem or a set of problems. Let's say reinforcement learning also have many flavors to it. You can work it out on a robotics problem. You can work on reinforcement learning in a optimization problem. Many such different problems are there. You can pick one and maybe you can start going to the core of it. That will also open up possibilities for you to do MS as well as going for higher studies. Then let's say you are 5 to 10 years into the years of experience and you are part of a different domain, right? So different domain here means, let's say you are from full stack development background, or let's say you are from quality team. Any such technology is actually fine. Let's say you are from analytics background also. So let's say you are 5 to 10 years into the experience. That means you are already at a senior position. So now the switch that you want to take, let's say you want to start with the core machine learning, might be a bit difficult because you might have to start from scratch, right? If you are prepared to start from scratch, that is absolutely fine. But one of the strategies that I tell my students to follow here is use your domain expertise as a primary expert thing. Let's say you have been working in full stack development in a finance company, right? So you know the challenges and the problems that are actually faced in that particular company in the finance domain, and you have been taking care of those challenges with your skills or using some third party company's help, right? So you know the problem, right? Maybe if you can put your newly learned machine learning skills into that problem to optimize that solution or to create a solution which works best, that is something that will be appreciated a lot in the industry. So use your previous skills instead of starting from being a complete fresher in machine learning, doing an entire switch directly to MLAI, because this is something that takes time to learn. You cannot be a expert in 1 year. You cannot be an expert in 2 years also. Even 5 years into the industry, I cannot say we are definitely more experienced, but we are still not experts. The more and more problems you deal with, the more expertise you will be actually getting. So while doing this transition, take it in a smooth way. Use the domain knowledge that you have gotten from your previous industry or the technology that you have been working on. Then integrate that with the newly learned machine learning skills. That is something which can give you a job switch within your company as well as outside the company as well. Okay. Then let's say you are from MBA background, right? Lot of people that I have met, consultants, analysts, are actually from MBA background, right? So they don't have any kind of coding experience. If they have, it is very less, or majorly it is self-learned because the company demands. So they sometimes have to learn the coding skills and then they have to implement it, but that is fine because nowadays technology has gotten into life to such a manner that we definitely have to have some or other kind of experience in the coding side of it also, even if they are completely from the non-technical background. If you want to stand out from the crowd, right, you have to do something different. That is where you have to understand some of the technical jargons properly, how things actually functions, how things actually run. Maybe writing a few lines of code will actually definitely help you in the same. So I have met product managers who still code and they actually build machine learning models. They put it on their GitHub repo and they share it over LinkedIn, and they are the ones who are actually really good at doing their jobs because they are the ones who can connect with their subordinates properly, right? They know all these skills. That is actually, they have faced the similar challenges that their subordinates are currently facing. So if you are from a MBA background, I would say start exposing yourself little to the technical side, as well as you may be working also currently on the analytics part of it. That means creating dashboards, automating different processes, creating reports, all these things. Writing SQL query is also part of it. Now, from that job, if you are tired, then you can again get into a bit more technicality, understand how things really functions at the back end, write a few lines of code. Because you have a good analytical domain expertise, you can definitely grasp the domain knowledge or at least the business problem properly. With the technical skills, it's going to be a great combination, and automatically things will work out. The kind of jobs you will be applying for is going to be great. That is something you can also do. Okay, so I think that's gonna be the last slide from me. Now, we'll be taking all the questions at the end of the session, if that is okay, guys, because we are kind of short on time. I took a lot of time, sorry for that. Let me quickly introduce Srijan. So, yeah. So one of the subject matter experts we have today is Mr. Srijan Sahai, who is currently working as a data science consultant and at EY. A really great guy, a really good mentor, and a really good friend. He has mentored lot of people in numbers that spans more than 2000 during his earlier career, especially helping people scale up in data science, machine learning. He is a really passionate person when it comes to technology. He tries to understand these business problems that I talk about all the time. He has a very good analytical mindset. That means he understands the problem to the core. He tries to really figure out, what is the core of the problem, thereby solving that problem. So that is something he does a lot. And being part of the education background, he's also, a fellow mentor like me only, and we have worked together in the past, and he is going to walk you through how you want to prepare for your career transition, along with some tools and skills that you should actually look into while preparing. So handing it over to you, Srijan, you can start.
Thank you, Virupaksha. So, hi guys. Let me know when my screen is visible.
It is visible, Srijan.
Okay. So, in the couple of slides, I will be talking about the tools and skills that are generally common and required in the data science or ML background, ML these days. So, coming to the first thing that is required most is statistics and mathematics. So, we already have heard from Virupaksha that why statistics is required, like the terms probability, or what is hypothesis testing, or when do we generally use. So the reason why we required statistics and mathematics is, now suppose if you are working in a banking domain and you are working on a project where you try to find whether a transaction is fraudulent or not. So when you get a data from a bank, it is not like every second or third transaction is fraudulent and it could be easily visible or could be predicted. In such kind of situation, what happens is data is not uh, properly ratioed. So that is, the ratio of fraudulent and non-fraudulent transactions are same. Similarly, when you talk about manufacturing, the product, number of defective product and number of okay product, or the correct products are not in the exact ratio. So in such situations, the statistics plays a part. Like you try to perform some hypothesis testing, like if a particular product, say if you're working for a manufacturing domain and you wanted to say, like let's take an example of a tire manufacturer, and your company has manufactured a tire, and you wanted to say how much kilometer this tire would last. So you cannot simply give a random number, say that it will run 10,000 or 20,000 kilometers. So there is a lot of statistics that run behind it, like doing T-tail test, uh, uh, or developing some hypothesis testing to actually validate it. So in these situations, the statistics is used. Similarly, when we are dealing with images, as Virupaksha has already mentioned, like we deal with images in neural networks. So images is nothing but a combination of matrices. So now, when you try to work on matrices, you already had heard about LU decomposition in your mathematics, or even about eigenvalues and eigenvector in your higher schools. So these are some things that are generally used in a background when you work for as a ML, or it can be directly used when you work as a data science in your day-to-day project. Now, coming to some of the programming languages that are common is Python and R. Yes, you can use C++, Java, and other languages as well. But why we generally prefer Python and R is we have a readily available packages for most of the data processing and model building things, which makes our task earlier. Implementing anything from scratch is a bit difficult compared to getting a package readily made of it, and you can simply use and get a result out of it. So it helps us to save the time, it helps us to save the computation, it helps us to uh, make something more efficient. So when you try to code something, so you're not sure that it is always efficient. Even that package won't be most efficient, but 90% of the time it could be efficient compared to the what you will develop in your initial stages. Okay. And if you are from computer background, you might have heard about big O of n or n square. So you can compare in terms of that, like if a things can be done in a n, but when we generally start programming, we try to do it in n square or something similar. So these programming languages, Python, R, comes with readily made packages which make us more favorable in ML, data science, AI. Now there are other tools also which gives you Python R inbuilt, like Jupyter Notebook, Colab, or Kaggle. You can use the kernel over there either as Python, R, or something else. And actually, these kind of tools help us to create an interactive environment where you can actually run your program and see the output instantaneously. Now, when you're dealing with data, when you're trying to make a machine learning model, or when you're trying to make to do a data science kind of stuff, when you try to perform something analytical based thing, so you don't work with a very small number of data, like a data of 10,000 records, or say 10 20,000, 50,000 records. There comes a there we use a huge amount of data, and to store this amount of data, we use big data. Now this data could be structured, unstructured, or semi-structured. So for each kind of data, we have a different kind of big data environment. Okay, so say for column-based structure, we can go for NoSQL. Column-based is a kind of unstructured database. Similarly, if you have structured data, you can simply take Hadoop and other things. Also nowadays we have two different kinds of big data which are very common in market. One is Hadoop, one is Spark. So there is a slight difference between them. That is, Spark help us to perform tasks easily. I won't get into the detail why it do so, and why Hadoop take more time, or why Hadoop is more uh, error prone compared to Spark, because this would take another session for it. But there are different kinds of big data environment that are commonly used. Uh, it depends on the type of data, as I have already mentioned, whether it is a structured, unstructured, or semi-structured. Now, the next topic is BI. Now, BI is business intelligence, and generally BI is used to give information or give insight about a particular business that you're trying to build. So some of the common tools that we use in the market is Power BI, which is offered by Microsoft. Then we have Tableau, SQL. SQL can also be used for Power BI. Even Excel can be used to create a graphs and to give information out of it. And to add more on this, you can create your own Power BI or Tableau dashboard, where you can actually present your solution to a larger audience. It is you as you can create a Facebook account, as you have can create a GitHub account. Similarly, you can also create a Tableau or Microsoft Power BI dashboard online, and you can while if you're trying to look out for a job, you can actually put these links in your resume, which kind of showcase what you have already done on these kind of environment. So this also can give you a plus point on that perspective. Coming to machine learning, so there are different tools that help us. Some of the common one is regression classification. So machine learning, giving a brief idea about it, can be of three types: supervised, unsupervised, and semi-supervised. Another is reinforcement learning, but let's keep that apart. So coming to supervised and unsupervised. So supervised is something where we have data with the result, the past data with the result, and based on that we create a model. So we train the model from the past data, and then we try to predict what would be the outcome for our future, or what could be the outcome for a particular values. So supervised can be used, can be solved using regression or classification. Now, when we say regression, classification, both are the types of supervised. There is a slight difference between them. Like regression can be used to solve quantitative problem statements, where classification can be used to solve qualitative, or where you try to predict the class, and regression where we try to predict a number in a continuous range. You don't have a certain sets of answer. Okay. And coming to our next type, unsupervised machine learning, where we have a past data but we don't have the result associated with it. So what we generally do is we try to club them based on their pattern, their behavior. Okay. Uh, so giving example of each of them, for example regression, if you try to predict the price of house, which is a very common example, and house prediction data sets, which is a common data set for all the beginners who start their career with ML. So there what we try to do is based on some of the uh, columns where features, we try to find what will be the outcome of the uh, what will be the price of the house. In case of classification, what we generally do is, uh, suppose there is a certain health record of a patient, and we try to predict whether a patient will survive or not. So here we only have two class, whether a patient will survive, yes or no. So these kinds of problem statements are called classification. Now suppose if I give you a certain transaction pattern, okay, and based on that I wanted to say the like segregate my customer. Suppose you're working on a banking domain, and if I ask you to say segregate of my customers based on their expenditure in say five different groups, so this grouping of things are called uh, clustering, and it is a kind of unsupervised machine learning. Now to make any machine learning model, there are something that are required like feature engineering. There will be n numbers of features, and you have to pick certain types of features. To take certain type of feature, this would come from your this will be coming from your past statistical knowledge. Like if you could be able to do statistical inferences on them and find out which columns are necessary and which columns are not. And the domain knowledge also plays a very important role while doing a feature engineering. Okay. Other things that are done in machine learning are training and deploying a model. So once you identify a problem statement, once you did a feature engineering, dimensionality reduction, then you train a model and deploy it for the for the prediction purpose. Okay. Now coming to uh, next sets of tools like advanced machine learning. So what do I mean by advanced machine learning is where we use neural networks, that is called deep learning. So in neural networks, we have different kinds of neural networks like convolutional neural network or reinforcement neural network, autoencoder. So convolutional neural networks are generally used for our image kinds of machine learning projects. Similarly, reinforcement neural networks are used where mostly with where the past result of the model is also required, and so on. So some of the common tools that we use to develop these models are TensorFlow or Keras or even PyTorch. So these are the packages that are easily available with Python language. But if you use any other language, then you might have to start from the scratch. So that also answers a question like why we prefer Python over other programming languages. Now, as I have told you, like domain knowledge is very important. So the reason to say this is because suppose you're working for a automobile industry, okay, or a banking industry, and if I say you to find CRR or API, so if you don't have a domain knowledge, you don't know what does a API means, that is an annual percent yield. Even if I say you like if I even if I give a definition, that is the interest gained by a customer over a year, but you don't know how to calculate it, or a CRR, which means cash reserve ratio for a bank. If I give, even if I help you like with the full form with the definition, but you don't know the exact formula to calculate it, or so having a domain knowledge is a plus point. Similarly, as I was talking about automobile industry, and these terms that I would be using like RPM or torque. So these words are familiar with you. So suppose if I say like you need to calculate the torque at a particular RPM for a certain horsepower of engine. So if you know the formula, you can easily calculate it, and you can use it to create another set of feature to that could be used to better predict the answer of a particular statement compared uh, compared to what or what compared to only using RPM and horsepower. So so having domain knowledge help us to increase the accuracy of the model, help us to understand better about the problem statement, better about the industry, and help us to solve the problem in much better way compared to a novice person. Okay. Now coming to data visualization, this is one of the important aspect of both data science, machine learning, or of any data related task. So some of the tools that we generally use are Matplotlib, Seaborn, which are the packages of Python. We can use also Panda visualization, and in case of R, we can use ggplot. So here you can actually plot the data, like how my data is behaving, what is the probability distribution of my data, whether the data is having a positive or a negative trend, how much noise is present in the data. And the last thing that is important skill is communication skills. So suppose if you go to a client and if you use like the terms like adjusted r square, like I have created a model with a adjusted r square value of 99.34. So these terms are not easily understandable by the client. So you should be able to express your model in front of a non-technical person in such a way that he actually understand what you wanted to convey. So creating a storyline and presenting it in front of the non-technical team is one of the important skill which is required in this domain. Okay, so uh, now we have talked about like what all are the skills and tools that are required in machine learning and data science. So let's come to our next topic for the day, which is how to prepare for the career switch. Okay, now uh, as Veer has told, like we have worked earlier, I have worked as an educator as well. So coming to my background, like I started as a Linux admin, working as I was trained as a Linux admin. Then I switched as an educator. I trained people. I worked on data science, and then I did a couple of project over there and did a couple of switch, and now I'm here. So what? How can you prepare for a career switch? So the first thing that you need is to do your homework. Now, when I say to do your homework is I wanted you to be sure like what is your dream career. Is your dream career like data science is your dream career, or ML is your dream career, or data analytics is your dream career, business analytics is your dream career. So you need to identify, you need to do a research and differentiate between it, and you should choose your particular interest, where particular skill where you are interested. Now once you sort this out, next thing you need to do is you need to build your professional network. You can connect with the similar person working on the similar skill over the LinkedIn. Not only the person working in the similar skill, but also uh, other people's like HRs who recruit in this, which will help you to find which are the required skills that are currently in the market for a particular uh, career. Also you need to, you what you can do is you can find a mentor, you can work with him, you can shadow some work to learn more about that career, which will help you to make a better career switch. Now, the next thing is identifying the skill that you need to master. So there are two types of skill. One is must to have skill. Another one is nice to have skills. So while applying for any career switch, you must have seen like desired skills and preferred skills. So these desired skills are must to have skills, and preferred are nice to have skills. For example, BTech is a desired skill, but MTech is a preferred skills in for a for a beginner in data science or ML. So you need to identify like which all are must to have skill for a particular career, like for coming to the situation of data science, mathematics, statistics, ML, libraries, programming languages like Python. These are some of the must to have skills. And what is nice to have skill is data um, presentation, which is business intelligence, is nice to have skills. And you can use Indeed, Glassdoor, or Naukri.com to find out these kinds of skills. And you can um, also find out like what are the must to have and nice to have qualification qualities also from for a particular career. The third thing is resume preparation. Now this thing I have faced it personal, like how does a better resume or how does an interactive resume help you to gain a plus point. So suppose if you create a 3 or 4 page resume with all the information written in it, do you think that a person who will be interviewing will go through all the 4 pages? Definitely no. What we generally do is we skim through the resume and we try to find out what all are the highlighted point. If you give a 3 4 pages resume, we will only stick to the first 2 pages. We don't bother to go to the third fourth, because of because the recruiter will get a good idea from the first 2 pages only, like where he can grill you, where he can ask you the question. Certain other things are like uh, your career objective, that also plays a very important role. So your career objective should also be in line with the career switch you apply. The third thing is, while you prepare a resume, you should tweak your resume a little bit as per the requirement by the job poster. Okay, if someone says like they need it for uh, computer vision kind of role, so instead of putting NLP all through it, you can put mostly the computer vision kind of project over there and some part of NLP over there. Just an idea. The third thing is, once you have applied, you should start practicing upon it, upon the skills that you have done. You should practice about the project you have done. You can have a dry run with your colleague, with your friends, with your seniors, like what kind of answers you can give for a particular project, what kind of questions you can expect for a particular project. Okay, and you should also be very thorough with the project that you have mentioned in your resume. Now, coming to the fifth point is, while you are giving an interview, you should be always be confident about your answer. If you are not confident, if you are not sure, say it frankly. If you don't know the answer, don't talk here and there, and you can simply say the no, because that gives us a better approach about the candidate, as well as it saves your time as well as the recruiter time. And the last thing, if you are a experienced person, suppose if you have 8 years, 10 years, or 15 years of experience, and if you are doing a career switch, you should be always prepared for the reason why you are making a career switch. Okay, so because if you're working for say 10 years, you already have built your reputation, your career in a particular domain. So what is the major reason why that you're switching to a new career? Okay, and remember that there is a no shortcut to success. Like, people generally have asked me that we don't have much time to go through the maths. Is there any other way, like we can simply learn things and just do a career switch? So you can do it for a time being, but if you join an organization and if you won't be able to work upon there, it doesn't look good. It will hamper you and your uh, performance in the new organization as well. Okay, so that's all from my side. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Srijan. I think that last point you said is actually something that I also connected with. There is no shortcut to success. Always remember that people who actually work hard, work on multiple projects, they are the one who actually land up with a great salary and a great job. Maybe initially it's a struggle period, but only once you do that, after that only the cream period will start, or the butter period will start, where everything will go smooth, right? So I think the primary focus at this point for everyone who want to do this switch is hard work and learning, right? So after that, everything will automatically fall into its place. Now, quickly introducing our next subject matter expert, Mr. Akash Verma, who is a really experienced person and a great friend of mine. We have been discussing for the past few years. We also got connected through some online webinar, and it is really great to discuss with him time to time. He definitely helps me with many problems that I face as well. He's the best example of stay hungry, stay curious, right? So during his tenure, he has worked with big companies like Ford Motor Company, and he has been a heavy learner during the entire process. And currently, he is the AI architect that we all talk about, or that we all aspire to be. And he has 10 years into the industry experience. He have done recruitment. He has created different platforms which takes care of different business problems. Apart from that, he has mentored many people. He has taken a lot of sessions. He has recruited many. A very good understanding of the industry requirements is something which we will get from Akash. And currently, he's definitely contributing a lot towards the open source community as well. So, with that, Akash, I'll be handing over the session to you. You can
Thank you,
share
Veer.
your.
Thank you. Hey, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Cool. So I'm gonna share my screen and just give me a second. All right, cool. Is it visible?
Yes, yes, it is visible. Great.
You can see me. You can see my picture, and you can
All
see
of
my
you.
video also, right?
All of you. Yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you, Veer, for that amazing introduction. I myself did not know that those are the things that I've completed. And yes, I'm about to close in on my 10th year. So, just a quick introduction, guys. I'm an architect, as Veer already mentioned. I'm an AI platform architect. What that means is I build systems that leverage AI technologies and solve a problem. Currently, I'm working with Dowcentric, which is an AI startup in Bangalore. Do check out the website for our company. Now, I'll quickly get into the core area of the topic, and what I'm going to be talking about is really the architecture bit. There's just one slide, but I'm going to be spending a little time on it, and I would encourage all of you guys, in case you are fresher, in case you are still in college, if you're having some experience, feel free to shoot out your questions, and we'll park them in the end, and we could have a healthy discussion around it. So what this slide really is we are talking about something called as an AI application lifecycle. And when most of us, when we think of data science, the first thing that usually comes to mind is could Jupyter notebook hoga? There'll be some kind of a Jupyter notebook. Somebody will write some code, and then cells will be executing it, right? And then most of the people who are experienced, they would definitely have an understanding that this is not the case. You got to deploy them into production, and by production I mean really put it to use. So if you think about it, AI is practically all around us. If you take out your phone, look at Amazon, look at Flipkart, look at Netflix, you have all those amazing examples of recommendation systems, right? These systems, they have captured AI beautifully, and as you keep watching, let's say, a certain type of series on Netflix, it's going to recommend you more content. And there's AI working behind the scenes. If you see video conferencing tools these days, there's a lot of interesting background change option. Like my video currently is blurred, right? That's AI at play. This is what is usually understood as an AI which is eventually consumed. I am consuming an AI. Behind it is still a model which was probably coded in one of the many programming languages that data science supports, be it Python. Yes, that is the most popular one. I did hear somebody talk about JavaScript. Yes, TensorFlow Lite exists. You can do all sorts of cool stuff if you're operating in browser. So TF Lite for has JavaScript. There is also programming languages like R, which are yes, thought on the heavy on the side on statistics and core. But yeah, you could do just fancy stuff in R too. Like there's a good application called Shiny which can help you deploy things in R. And then there's new age applications like Julia, which is coming, which is further taking computational aspects of AI to the edge. If you don't like any of these, you can do core C, C++. A lot of these libraries, like I think Srijan was mentioning, is available in multiple languages. And for example, you can write C++ code and you can use TensorFlow there. So in totality, there's plethora of languages, but the idea remains the same. How do we make sure that an AI, which is effectively a model, is consumed? And that's pretty much the goal for this slide, or for the next few minutes that I'm going to be spending. Okay, so I'm just going to start with this application flow, and the idea is we call this as an AI application life cycle. Why life cycle? Because it starts with data, you deploy it, and then it iterates. It's a loop, it's a whole cyclic process. That's what gives it the word life cycle, right? So the first thing that you do is you prepare something, right? You kind of have some sort of a data which is coming from different sources. And when we say data comes from different sources, it is variety. Most of the times, again, the difference between a real world project and a learning project or a POC is data is not equivalent to pd.read CSV or pd.read Excel, which is pretty much what we do when we use pandas and read data. It is usually coming in the form of some live form, be it a database, be it a system, be it a source of data, for example, a Twitter stream and things like that. It could be a video feed, it could be news articles, variety of sources. And the idea is you go through these steps to prepare your data. A lot can happen when we say prepare, things like ETL, which is extract transform load, or ELT, which is extract load transform, data pipelines. Those sort of concepts are typically looked here when we say prepare the data. The output almost always is some data set which has a meaning in the given context. So for example, if I'm making a Netflix recommender system, there could be thousands of data sets. However, the core data set is the output, right? Which is where this line kind of shines in. All right. And then the idea is to do this whole exercise enough number of times that you get some kind of a model. Now, this is the exercise which is usually tagged to, I would say, data scientists who do modeling, because the term data scientist is extremely convoluted in the industry. People like lead data scientists, like people who I work with, they are great modelers. They have great understanding of data and functional domain and whatnot. And they also apply, understand deployments and cloud and all of that. So I would think they are all architects, but yeah, their designations are data scientists for whatsoever reasons. So data science typically is thought here, which is usually thought as the cool stuff. But if you talk to any data scientist, they will tell you that almost 60% of the time goes in the prepare phase, where you're cleaning the data, massaging the data, doing feature engineering, applying all sorts of transformations. And that's very important. So if you are somebody who's fascinated by the modeling aspect of an AI, ki model banaya and some predictions happen, please make sure you learn how to work with data, how to do EDA, because those are the sorts of things that are typically looked in interviews. Okay. Then what we do is we kind of have something like a Jupyter notebook or a Visual Studio Code where we write code. Now these are environments where you operate with data, call your libraries, generate a node. This happens enough number of times, and something which is loosely called as a model is saved. And why I say loosely is this can change, this can evolve over time, right? But let's say you got a best model right now, that's the model you want to deploy for production. So you will take that and register your model. And when we say register your model, there's a concept of model registry in ML ops, which is a very hot topic these days. But in general, it is just saying save your artifact. People who have been good old Java developers, they know this is like a jar or the deployable version of the file. This is an artifact pretty much. This is a serialized file. Okay. And then comes the fun part, which is usually where I operate mostly in. And this is where you kind of ship your machine learning model. One of the most common ways to do that is packaging in the form of a Flask API, where you have Flask application. You have, let's say, code like import Flask, import Pandas, import Skykit. Then you get the data from the REST API that Flask provides. You get the data, you apply those transformations, and on those vectors, you do a model.predict. Where do you do model.predict? Model is already saved, and you have that serialized. Now, this Flask application can be happily containerized, which is to say, If you're familiar with Docker containers and things like that, that's what this containerization process will do. And then finally, once you deploy it, there'll be some sort of an endpoint which could be listed as a web service. So you could have a REST endpoint. Let's say we come up with an image and say that what's really the type of this. So it's a dog or a cat or the type of the dog. So I gave it like a Labrador image, and the URL would be like slash predict category of the animal, and then the path to the image, and then path would be sent to the application. Flask would read that image. Flask would then give the data to Skykit. Skykit would do the prediction, say it is a dog of type Labrador, and send as a JSON response. Now, the understanding of this whole life cycle is extremely important. Once you deploy it, you got to monitor it. Like, how many times did I give a false classification? How many times did I give a in not successful error? How many times did my API fail? How many times did I give an authentication error? And things like that. So that's the core idea of an AI application lifecycle. Now, when I talk to a lot of people, and I really talk to a lot of youngsters, because we have that many people in our organization, and a lot of people when we do internships and things like that. Most of the question is around how do I productionize, what to do after Jupyter Notebook? And the answer is pretty much this slide. So if you want to take a snapshot, grab this image and try and understand this. This whole image can be spent as hours of talk. Okay, so that's pretty much AI application lifecycle. Now, when I do hiring, right, and I do a lot of it, when I hire people, I want to have, and I go with an outlook of hiring a data engineer or a machine learning engineer or sometimes a young data scientist. Couple of things that I want to do. The prepare, experiment, deploy lifecycle, I would anticipate and expect that the person is aware of it, right? Even if it is at the basic level, a fundamental understanding of the life cycle of AI is important, because if you don't know who's going to consume your output as a person, that becomes a challenge in the team. So that's the first thing which I will say, that have an understanding of the process and an end-to-end flow of an AI application. The second thing is, in case you're fresh out of the college, or if even if you're in a couple of years of experience, familiarity with deployment methods like Docker containers, APIs are really, really a big plus. Because, and when I say familiarity, it is not that you took an application, deployed it in Docker and say, I'm ready. No, it's about understanding Dockers as well as you do core machine learning modeling stuff. The third thing which we really look for is if you have worked with a cloud provider, and if you have a basic understanding or experience of doing POCs on the cloud. I talk to a lot of people who say, sir, मैंने EC2 पे काम किया है, and I have worked with SageMaker and things like that. But they are very random. When you learn something, right, make sure you finish it from start to end. And as there was a quote before, right, there are no shortcuts. Start, find A, B, C, D, make sure you can connect the dots from A to B to C to D, and only then that say that you are aware. Because nothing offsets an interviewer like guesswork. So be aware and be confident. Finally, the next set of things that pretty much I look at is the person whom I'm interviewing should be curious and have a positive attitude. Oftentimes, there is no single solution to a problem. And people are just adamant about those aspects when giving interviews. I've seen the same challenge with youngsters as well as experienced people. Something that has to be acknowledged in an interview is, and that has to be done happily, is when you're talking, please make sure that you understand the interviewer's perspective by asking questions and clarities around the question, because they might already have an answer in mind. And the answer that you're giving might or might not be the same that they're expecting. So in order to bridge this, make sure you have a positive attitude, be curious about the question, and try and probe more so that you can answer it better. And if you don't know, please say, I don't know. That is absolutely okay. However, a projection of the fact that I already know everything is also very offsetting. For example, when I talk to young data scientists, a lot of them have immense understanding on CNNs, RNNs, LSTMs. They have a great grasp on the deep learning and all the cool stuffs. But if you try and get to a very foundational level and ask what a normal distribution is, I think that's fundamental thing in a statistical problem, or just try and ask a equation for a linear regression, a lot of them fail. And the expectation as a fresher is, or an expectation as a data scientist or a data engineer, is not to be master at something or just to be excel at something, but really there must be strong foundations, which is, I would say, the concluding statement should be as far as I go when I hire, and when I hire as an engineering manager. That's pretty much the tech key aspects. Now what happens is I talk a lot on these topics. There's a blog that I run, which is called Cafe IO. I'm gonna just the link. All of these links are present in the YouTube channel, in the description of the YouTube stream that you're watching right now. Please do like, share, and subscribe. It would help me make more videos. And there are certain topics which I mentioned, which I look at. There's a great video series which is on machine learning system design, which you can walk and understand a little more. That should give you more clarity on how machine learning systems are, what they are, how they should behave, and things like that. And this is a very beautiful quote which I really liked, which is, intelligence is the ability to adapt to change. And what machine learning systems do, what AI does, is pretty much adapts. You give model a lot of data about the history and it's going to predict the future. That's pretty much what I had to share with you guys. Thank you for listening to me. Over to you, Veer. Sorry.
Yes, thank you very much, Akash, for sharing a lot of insights with us. And it was really great understanding the entire aspect of the machine learning life cycle itself. And I think that is pretty much important, and all the participants who have joined us will actually appreciate the same, right? You should have a strong foundation and you should know the entire life cycle, right? I mean, it is not just preparation, it's not just the training, it is the deployment that actually takes your project to the next level, right? That's why people actually can interact and see the practical implementation of the thing that you have worked so hard to build, right? So that's pretty much very important, and everybody should at least try to understand these things in detail, right? With that, we will quickly proceed with the other things. Guys, quickly to mark your attendance. So what you can do is, I've shared a link on the chat. It's my website's link with the subscribe as the endpoint, right? So you can just go to the same. So I'll just quickly show you guys how it is. Yeah. So please enter your official name. Make sure the spelling is correct and the email ID with which you have registered for this thing, right? For this particular session, so that I can mark the attendance. You can click on sign up then, and after that you will get a email notification on your whatever email address you have mentioned here, and there also you have to confirm that you have attended the session by clicking on some kind of confirm button which will come there, right? So here enter a name properly, email ID properly, the one that you have registered with, click on sign up. You will get an confirmation email on your this particular email that you will enter, and there click on confirm, and finally whatever the subscription I get during this next 5 to 10 minutes of time will be getting their respective certificates. Okay, so quickly going through a few more slides. Definitely go for this cafe.io. I mean, it's the description has contains all the links which is present. You can subscribe. A lot of interesting reads are gonna be there. And quickly talking about this dreams to reality, person to person, right? So the mentorship that I especially started on this, and we have a small team. We are building up the team of more and more mentors slowly with time. So a lot of things are there. You can go for the professional mentorship as well as the student mentorship. How to understand how you can get a good career boost in terms of your personal profile that you have. What is the right things to do? Which buckets that I've showed earlier, right? Which buckets you fall into. Based on that, get a proper plan of what you can actually do. Along with that, lot of mock interviews. If you have a good idea and you think it can be converted into a good startup, that is something also you can avail here. If you have a small business idea, want to build a website on that, you want to deploy it, you want to integrate some machine learning applications on that website itself, that is something also you can avail. And definitely, if there are some experienced people who are present here who are part of some companies and are struggling with some business problems, who want to convert it to make some automation or want to make it more efficient, they can also reach out to me. So the link is present here in the on the screen, as well as it is present on the description. You can check it out. Now, before we get into the Q&A, quickly, what should be your next step? That means, what is the future of AI, right? So it's definitely filled with possibilities and opportunities. As I said earlier, I mean, there is a huge amount of gap which is still present, right? AI is something that combines the machine world to the intelligence world that humans have, right? So to get the best of both worlds is something what AI is all about, what machine learning is all about. The gap is huge, and there are still a lot of things yet to be done, and that is where the possibilities are present, the opportunities are present. There is not a single industry. Believe me when I say that. I think Akash sir and Srijan, both of them will agree. Every industry, every company has some or other kind of problem which can be dealt with ML and AI, right? So data is something which is common across the place, and if data is present, there can be automation, there can be intelligent solution which can take care of a lot of things, right? So that is where the opportunities are actually present. So don't worry if you are a fresher, you are an experienced person, you are getting started with things. It will take time, it will take hard work, but don't worry, if you are persistent enough, you will definitely crack it and get the best of all the things. So now quickly getting into the Q&A section, let's look at some questions, guys. Let's switch. So everybody is open to take answer. I think Akash and Srijan also can pitch in anytime.
Sure, sure, Veer. I'm here. I'm available.
Yes. So let me just quickly go through our panel. Yeah. So there is a BCom kid who is a graduate, and I guess Patipat wants to learn data science, right? So would you like to take it up, Akash?
Sure, sure. See, as long as you have studied mathematics in some form, and I would say that even if you have not, uh, you can take up data science. I know people who have done bioinformatics who are into data science. There are few people who are into mechanical engineering who have moved into data science. Commerce students, I actually know a lot of them who have moved into data science. So just probably go through some of the courses that is either freely available on the internet, or if you're trying hard to get a discipline, enroll in some. There's a lot of training institutes out there. Pick any course, put a structure, put a reasonable timeline to it. Like 6 months is good enough if you're a complete fresh beginner. Practice, practice, practice. Sit probably for every alternate day, 1.5 hours, and there's no reason why you should not be able to do it.
Yes, just to add up to that point, Akash, uh, I have worked with two mechanical students who are really, really good at deep learning, right? So I'll share their names later. They are connected with me over LinkedIn. So it doesn't really matter which stream you are coming from, right? So that's just a phase, college phase, which is over. What you want to do is something that matters. You want to get a switch to data science, definitely go ahead and do it, right? There is no better time than this. You will never get this kind of opportunity later. So the next question is regarding the language question, right? So which language you can use? So honestly, I think it depends on the application that we are building, right? The requirements that your clients have or you have. If it is, let's say, a front-end application which needs to be really fast, right? So JavaScript is the best option. Let's say it is a number of calls per minute. It is well known there are 1,000 calls, or it's a million calls per minute that can happen, right? You have enough infra to set it up. You can use any kind of language. You can dockerize it easily, create endpoints. You can use that kind of method, right? So that point of time, language dependency won't be there. Now, C++ are also definitely important. There are a lot of applications like self-driving cars where risk is high. So, if in a very small duration, you have to predict a lot of things, right? So, that point of time, you need to use languages which are close to the hardware. That is C++. Right? So, that those things can also be used to do it. But as Srijan also mentioned earlier, the primary lot of packages for analyzing libraries, different algorithms is available in Python. That's why it is popular. but slowly other things are also coming into picture. There is also Java, maybe J4 DL नाम there is one more library that you can use for deep learning training and all.
Correct.
Yes, DL4J.
DL4J,
DL4J.
thank you for correct. Then the next question is, in USA, please explain the job prospects and pay of robotic software engineer versus data science. So, Akars, would you like to take this up?
Yeah, sure. So I can't answer the complete pay part because I haven't recently checked. I can point you to there's a person on YouTube who actually does pay comparisons because pay varies by city, which also happens in India, but it's very significant there.
Yes, yes.
Also, the value of money is different in different cities. But when you say robotic software engineer, that's I would say an extremely specialized area. Data scientist is still generic because data scientists can specialize in time series, convolutional networks, NLP problems. Across the world, prospects are immensely high if you can find organizations which can do robotics. Robotics has a good converging point with AI where a lot of image processing problems are directly applied onto robotics. For instance, you apply a lot of computer vision problem into robotic vision. There's also a specialization called HCI where you deal with robots and human computer interaction. That's also a specialized area. Job market is really hot. Be it India, be it US, Canada is also great prospects. Very recently, Australia has also joined the bandwagon. So job wise, it's pretty good when it comes to newer age technologies. If you are working on the tech side, like if you're actually doing, if you're doing the sales of these, you should try Middle East and things like that.
That's great. So I think pay scale is something which comes based on city as well as the country itself, and definitely the expenditure is also going to be on the similar scale over there, right? So that's going to be there. But as Akash said, the prospects are like many. If you want to stick to one particular domain itself, there are many things you can do, many applications you can work on. Right? You can check out the robotic operating system in case you are interested. You can check out how the nodes are created and how you can integrate it with the hardware. That's also pretty interesting stuff uh, that you can try out. Then how does the stats aspect has an impact on product working with non-numeric data per se? I think Srijan would be the right person to deal with this question, right?
Thanks, Veerbhai. So anything that we do on computer can be expressed as 0 or 1. That is a mathematical term. Now to answer that, let's first understand what does non-numeric data mean. For example, the gender, whether it is a male or female, or you can say the color red, blue, green, yellow. So if you want to convert them as deal with them in stats, what you can do is you can convert them into a numeric values. Now there are different ways to convert them, like one hot encoding could be there, or other ways like label encoding could be done over there. It depends on problem to problem. Okay, for example, taking coming back to the gender problem, male or female, you can put 0 1, or when you're talking about red blue colors like red blue green. So what you can do is you can convert any color, say yellow can be also expressed as red blue green, so you can actually put those values over there. So similarly, there are ways to convert non-numeric data into a numeric data and further work upon it.
Yes. So, along with that, just want to add one more thing. Non-numeric data, are like primarily unstructured data, majorly happens on the natural language processing side. There are different kind of statistics that we use there. For example, the density matrix, the number of occurrences that are present. We use different kind of state machines to identify the sequence. I mean, these are a lot of interesting concepts that are actually present that you can use to extract lot of information from your unstructured data and use it to train model. Recently, a lot of models that have come up into picture, especially in NLP, which extracts really powerful embeddings, which captures the meaning of the word itself, trained on huge amount of data set, right? So that is also something that you can use. It basically converts the word into a vector, and that vector is a carries a meaning, right? So similar words will actually, the vector for similar words actually will be closer compared to dissimilar words. So many such interesting things happens there, and that is something you can check it out, right? So let's look into the next question. Is it difficult to get a job at a good company in the field of machine learning data science just after graduation? Because I have heard that MLDS position require past experience such as previous jobs. So I think Akash would be the right person.
No, no, no. So that is absolutely not the case. Uh, I would say in the past 3 months, we would have hired at least 4 to 5 fresh people. Uh, Two interns, I believe, from similar colleges are going to join our organization who are absolutely freshers. That is absolutely not the case. What you need is the things that we talked about: desire, curiosity, positive attitude, a good degree of skill, obviously, and definitely a lot of organizations are taking freshers. It's not experience is overrated. Honestly, after 10 years, I can humbly say that experience is overrated. It is just that I have 10 years worth of mistakes. That's pretty much it. Do not ever think that just because you're a fresher you cannot get a job in data science ML. You definitely can.
Okay, thank you very much, Akash, for that. And so the next question is basically, what is the right age to go in the particular field? Certainly, I mean, whatever age you are in, it's really a great time to go into this, right? I mean, you can use MLAI skills as an add-on to your current skills, right? Even if you are working in testing, you are working in full stack development, you are working as a DBA, anything that you have, it can be added as an additional skill, and it can help you get your next transition. Even if you are in a managerial skill level also. So then what we have is, okay, so Sarath is asking, which is better, right? Robotic software engineer versus data scientist in USA. He's a mechanical graduate and working as system engineer in TCS, but in Java and Spring Boot. So that's what he's asking, which one he can go for in USA, robotics or data science? So, I mean, I think any of them are actually fine, right?
Yeah,
As
both
long
are good
as
यार. Interest जिसमें है वो कर लो ना.
uh, I think in robotics, especially in India, I believe there is not much progress. In data science, there is a huge progress. Robotics opportunities are actually present in USA and Europe, European countries. Australia is also a place where you can explore. Lot of universities which are present. Data science, which is heavily present in India, that is something which is definitely there. Then we have, okay, how does the acha, this done. Okay, can you all share some tips regarding getting a good job or internship in DSML in good companies? I think Nikita, one thing is we have been doing that for the entire session, right? We have been helping on the same thing. But still, if you want us to summarize it, I guess Srijan would be the best one who can summarize the entire thing, right? Can you hear me, Srijan?
Hello. Yes, Veer.
Huh.
Uh, so can you just repeat the question? Your voice
Yes,
was
yes.
breaking.
Can you all share some tips regarding getting a good job or internship in this industry? And I mean, that's what I said. Okay, this like the entire session is about that only. So if you can
Okay.
just summarize the entire thing.
Okay. So about getting a good job and internship, first of all, you should be vigilant with the opportunities that are coming out in the market. You should be regularly checking some of the career website, both of the organization and of the consultancy firms. Also, this LinkedIn or Glassdoor actually help us to get some of them, but these are most mostly regarding the job, but when it comes to internship, the company websites are the best, and you should actually focus, or you should actually do a research before looking out of it, like which all companies provide internship, at which particular period of the year they provide internship, so that you can target them. Now, from the past also, what you can do is you can get some ideas, like for which kind of role they are hiring, whether it interests you or not, what kind of skill sets are required to actually go and get through them. Also, one thing that I found interesting about internship is the earlier you apply, the chances are high to get internship over there. So always be the early bird, rather than waiting for the last day and applying. And always be ready with your resume before every financial year, so that generally June July is the time when you generally get internship in most of the organization. And regarding the job, uh, I've shared some of the tips already in one of the slide, like do your homework, always be ready with your must to have and nice to have skills, identify them, and creating your resume. One point that Akash also mentioned is you should be always be ready with end to end of the project you are writing on the resume, because the interviewer can expect you to, okay, uh, everyone has worked on a part of something, but you should know entire process. You can say like this was the problem statement. You should start with describing your problem statement, what was your roles and responsibilities, and what actually was the outcome of your particular project, in terms of not only the that you made a model, but how does that model helps the client to achieve something, either it is a profit or it is a customer. You should be thorough through it also.
Yes, that's great.
Anything you want to add, Akash or Virupaksh?
Oh, I think you have
I think
summarized it beautifully. I would just suggest to whosoever was asking this question, probably watch the video again, because when you watch it in a flow again alone, that also gives you a lot of thought. Watching it in a flow, you're just constantly flowing. So sit down alone, watch the video. It will probably give you more clarity.
yes. So two more questions quickly. I'll take what learning path to follow for experienced people working in front-end technology. I think front-end technology has a lot of opportunities nowadays. I have actually worked on the same. If you are familiar with JavaScript, start with TFJS or TF Lite, right? So both of them will actually help you get a good understanding on the same. You may have to work along with the Jupyter notebooks because some data analysis, I think Jupyter would be better. So maybe learn a Python also a little bit. Both are scripting language, so probably will be easy to grasp. Are MTech courses like Upgrad, Simplilearn, etc. must to be take? Not really, right? So there are a lot of content available online itself. You can probably get started with that. But if you are a really busy and working professional, right, and you don't have time to do lot of surfing and read content like this, so these online education platform will give you that in a very structured manner. So that is where it is going to be important. But if you have some time, if you can do some independent research, I would suggest you don't really need to enroll for these courses. But if you are restricted on time, those courses are going to be a good choice to go for. That is going to be a very good assumptions over here. Anything
uh,
else?
I would like to add over here.
Yes.
I heard like MTech courses from Upgrad. Okay, so before applying or before enrolling on any course, make sure what kind of certification it gives, because Upgrade never gives MTech, it gives PGDA, which is equivalent to MTech but not exactly equal to MTech. So make a full research on whatever course you are planning to enroll. Talk to some of the pass out people who had actually done those course, how you can manage the time. That is one of the most important thing. Like, you should be able to manage time, you should be able to do those things. It is not like enrolling a course and then mugging up all the thing on a single weekend and then passing all the questions exams. You should actually give time as a proper time. Set a time like 1 hour each day, whether say a late night or a early morning, whenever you find a time, but dedicate your time so that you actually can get result from it.
Yes, yes, that's a great summary for that. And I guess that's all the questions. So, just last thing, If you like to know more about us, what we all work on, so you have all kind of social media links right here at this point. Whichever platform we are available, whether Twitter, GitHub, LinkedIn, Facebook, you can actually follow us or send a connection request to us, right? So in case of any queries, any doubts, you can definitely reach out to us. You can take a screenshot of this, or the recording will anyway be available on YouTube. You can check it out at the end of the session. Okay, I guess that's it. Thank you very much,
Thank
everyone,
you.
and for
Thank you,
Thank
joining.
you,
everyone.
everyone. Thank you, Birupaksh. Thank you,
Yes,
Akash.
yes.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening, and